So let me describe something to you. And let me see if you see yourself in this scenario. But it's something that I see all the time in my clinic, in my patients, in my clients. Someone decides to focus on their health. Maybe there's a moment that triggers it. A doctor's visit, an event, a family member, some conference that they went to. And the realization sticks in. And they jump in and they start making changes. And the weight starts to come off. The clothes start to fit a little differently. The scales are moving, energy improves, and then nothing dramatic happens. Nothing that's big, no mistakes, no falling off, no moment where things blow up, but just gradually, quietly, things begin to shift. The scale slows, maybe it nudges up a bit, or it becomes harder to maintain what was working, even though effort hasn't changed. And the question that usually follows is not one of frustration, it's confusion. Why is this getting harder to maintain when my efforts haven't changed? If you've ever asked that question, not because you were giving up, but because you were trying your darndest, you were trying the hardest, you're trying to understand what changed, you're in the right place, because this shift is not a failure, it's information. And this episode that we're doing right now, we're going to slow things down and we're going to use that as information like it actually is. And we want to see, what is it pointing to? Hey, if you're new to me, I'm Dr. Dwain Woode. Welcome to our show tonight. If you're new to me, that's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, go to the next level. We're creating the life we've always wanted. And I am here because I want you to have the same successes in this space, in your health, just like you're having in other areas of your life. I want you to be able to show up for all the important things and the connections in your life, your family, your friends, your community, and for those dreams that you've been pouring into. You don't need superhuman strength. What you need is a strategy you can trust. You need a plan you can follow, and you need the determination and the support to keep showing up every single time. So if you're new, go ahead and drop new in the comments, because we'd love to welcome you with a hand clap and some music. And let you know that we are excited that you're here right now. Tonight, our conversation is building on something that we put out last week, right? Our foundations episode, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But if you also have comments, go ahead and drop those. If you have questions, go ahead and drop those in the comments. We'll take a look at those as we move into our episode for this evening. Got some good things that we're going to take a look at. I've got my monitors off to my side. I'm so excited that you're here, so excited that you have decided to take a chance on your health and do something that is so important as we are moving into this season. So before we get there, before we get into our discussion, one of the things that I love to do is I love to show what is going on in real life. So before we go any further, I want to ground us in real life. What does it look like? Right? So when I look at my data, when I look at my weight, when I look at my glucose, when I look at my sleep and recovery, it's not evaluating success or failure. It's observing response. Those numbers show me how my body is adapting to what I'm asking it to do. They help me to see patterns, not pass or fail, not to pass judgment, just to be able to see, hey, what's going on? So the question that we're answering as I'm looking at my numbers, the question that's guiding us tonight is, what is my body responding to right now? Okay, so let's go ahead and let's hop over and let's take a look at what's going on with my blood sugars. We'll start by looking at, this is my Freestyle Libre that you see there on the screen. And you see my blood sugar right here is 81. 81. And down below, you'll see what my graph is for the last 12 hours. 80s, 80s, 80s for most of the day. And we were traveling over this past weekend. As a matter of fact, we were traveling starting on Thursday or Friday? Friday morning, and just got back home today. So the last 12 hours, you'll see there. And let's see what's going on here. So we went up to about 124. Had a snack there right before we came on. And then now back down to the low 100s and then into the 80s. So that's what this is showing. My reports, if I look at the daily reports here, I can see my time in range. And we'll look at this big number here. And of course, we're always going to the 90-day because that's where we get our A1C from. So for the last 90 days, you see I've been in target or time in range for 93% of the time. 7% down there are usually when I am fasting. And then if I look at my average glucose, we're looking at this line right here, going to 90 days, 94, and then broken down according to what's going on over the course of the different times of the day. Okay, so I love what this does. And if you come back when we do our full show, you'll get to see some of we're going to this one. You get to see some of what's been going on blood sugar wise. Let's go ahead and get rid of this. And right here you see, let me do one thing really quickly. Okay, there we go. You'll see what's been going on with other numbers. So right now, here is my Dexcom Clarity, or Dexcom, and you see my blood sugar is 121. Over the last 12 hours was what you see here. And actually, that's 3 hours. Let me do 12 hours. There you go. So 12 hours right in this graph. You'll see those numbers kind of in the 130s, 140s. And as you know, the Dexcom tends to be about 20 or 30 points higher for me from the Libre. And so right now it's saying 121. My Libre was saying in the 80s. So we're about, how many is that? 40 points away from each other. Okay. All right. Once again, don't let that kind of disturb you because these can be about 20% off from each other. The other thing that I want to do is I want to go over here, and that's what I was pulling up a minute ago, so that you can see. So this is my weight, 186.6 pounds, with my BMI 26.7. And as you know, we've over the course of time been kind of tracking our weight, and so that puts me a little bit below or a little bit above 100 pounds in terms of weight loss. Okay, and so we've been maintaining that. We'll talk more about that as we go into other shows. But right now, let's hop over and let's take a look at these guys, because what we want to do is we want to see what they are compared to what the Libre and the Dexcom is saying. So let's do this view. We're going to get in here and grab a couple of lancets. So I need a brown for glucose. I need a blue for ketones. And I need some strips with a few lancets. These are my lancets right here. Let's get this out. And let's go ahead and open up the Keto Mojo. And as you know, that one gives me both glucose and ketones. Get a strip out for the Contour. And people ask me, why do I use a Contour? It's the one that we use in the office. And so for me, it did not make sense to have two different machines because I already have the two continuous monitors. So we use the same one on the show here that we use in the office. And then I'm going to just put this strip off to the side. That's my ketone strip. And here is the lancet. We'll grab a finger. And hopefully that gave me a good, there we go, yeah, a good brisk drop. So now we're comparing to see what those numbers are compared to what my monitors are saying. And let's get this one back on the screen. So right now my Libre says 83, the Contour says 85, the sorry, Contour says 88. The Keto Mojo says 85. And so the odd man out right now is the Dexcom. So the Dexcom is saying that we're 121, and the other three are kind of agreeing with each other within a few points, that I'm in the 80s right now. Okay. And I want to take this strip out, get this one in, and this is my ketones. And so I have not been fasting since last week when we ended our fast. So we'll see. What do you think? Oh, I think I need to get another drop. I think I need to stick myself again. All right, so let's get another drop for the ketones. There we go. That's a good one. Here we are. All right. So 5, 4, 3, 7, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And so ketones are 0.2. And so if you're familiar with ketones that are less than 0.5 are normal. 0.5 to 1.5 are considered nutritional ketosis, and above that is considered therapeutic ketosis. And so that's where my numbers are. So we've looked at my continuous monitors. All right, so you see my Dexcom right there. We've looked at these numbers in terms of the monitors, and we looked at my graph and what my ketones are. And, of course, looked at what my weight is right now. So all of these numbers are simply numbers. They are data. And one of the things that I want to convince people of is that the data only gives me data. The data has no meaning until I assign it a meaning. So often people will say to me, well, I don't get on the scale. I don't check my blood sugars because I don't want to know what it is. Because when I check it and it's not where I want it to be, then I get depressed or so forth. And that's understandable. And I'll have to tell you that I've been there. But it is simply data. And the data doesn't mean anything until we assign it a meaning. So we'll talk more about that as we get into the rest of our season. So, all right. So let's see. So let's go over, and I do want to say hello to some of our community members. So let's get over there, and I do see some of you out there. So let's say hello before we get into the rest of our show. And I see Jennifer. Jennifer says, howdy all. What's going on, Jennifer? Thank you for coming through. Pam says, hello. Hey, Pam. Glad that you're here. Pam had Jennifer saying hi to Pam. Pam saying hi to Jennifer. We've got Gion. She says, hi, Doctor and LLG. And Gion, hi, Jennifer. Hi, Pam. How are you all? We are doing well. And then keeping it warm. Yeah, so we traveled. We were actually in New York just over the last couple of days, and it was cold, y'all. I was bundled up like you would not believe. I had on like layers on top of layers on top of layers. So it was interesting to be there. But we're excited to be back home. All right, and so let's get in here. So we've been walking through an interesting path so far over the course of our show, and if you have been with us, you know that our format's changed a little bit. So we have our show Monday, Dwain Woode MD Live, which is right here, and on the week before we put out one of our foundational episodes, and so the show on Monday is based on what's going on in that episode. And so tonight we're talking, that's what we're dealing with, and we'll you'll get kind of used to that format. So last week we released a Foundations episode exploring why weight loss can improve, and then it quietly becomes harder and harder to maintain. And so we're going to slow it down a little bit to understand how it shows up in real life. That's where this next segment is heading. Let's go ahead and we're going to do that right now. All right, so now that we're in the lab, let me orient you to what this space is all about. This conversation is for people who've seen progress, weight coming down, for example, habits improve, and then notice that maintaining it starts to feel harder. Not because effort has disappeared, not because discipline has collapsed, but because the body's responses have shifted. And this is where we slow things down and we look at those shifts as they happen in real life. We're learning to recognize patterns. We learn to recognize those patterns in timing, in pressure, recovery, in structure, so that the body's signals make sense as they unfold. And if you're watching this on your own, you don't need any prior context. In other words, you don't need any additional information. We'll build that clarity together here as we go through the show together right now. Okay? And so here's how we're going to go through this. I'll be walking us through a few prompts, some guided questions. And I want you to reflect on these questions quietly. You can put it in the chat, whatever fits you right now. Maybe you're journaling. Maybe you are hanging out with some friends and you guys can talk. You can pause the video, right? The goal is simply to notice where those, when those things are showing up. Where are they showing up and what does that mean for us? These questions help the patterns become visible. Sometimes you just simply need to catch a glimpse of what seems to be going on. And when you can do that, then you have something that tangible that you can look at. Okay, so these questions are designed to help show those patterns and make them visible. And when patterns are visible, decisions become simpler, right? Because yeah, after all, that's what it is. So let's go ahead and let's begin where patterns usually show up first. Not in numbers themselves, because that is actually a late thing, but in timing. And so here's the first question. Let's begin with the simplest and one of the most revealing. And that's, when did the weight start to change again? So after all, we got motivated, we got into the process, we're taking charge of our health, we may have adjusted some things, and we saw the weight start to go. We saw the weight start to come down. And so as we looked at my numbers, as I look at my graphs and I get on my scale, right, I will see, right, over the course of time, I'll see that, and you will see that as well. And so the question then becomes not what the number was when it changed. So now we're not looking exactly what the weight was, not the exact day that the scale began with this new number, but the timing. Because patterns show up when things are happening, and they actually show up before they show up in the numbers. So something happens, and remember, the scale actually is a late finding of something else that's happening, because the scale doesn't change that same day. Something is going on, and that helps, or that leads to the fluctuations that we see. So what I want you to think back over the last few weeks, the last few months, or the last time that you had a process that was working. You lost the weight. You were doing great, and then it began coming back. So what was going on at the time? Was it after you had had several good weeks? So you had gotten in there and you hit the ground running, and things are going, and for weeks and weeks and weeks, and things seem to be going well, and the scale is going on, your clothes is fitting differently. You may have even gone out and bought some new clothes. So several weeks where things were good, several months maybe where things were good, and they were steady, they were predictable, and then something shifted. Something shifted. Was it after a scheduling change? Right? A new shift at work, a different routine at home. Maybe the kids are back in school. Maybe travel season changed. Maybe you had a longer commute or shorter commute. Was it after you guys took a vacation? You traveled. even good travel, even vacation travel, where sleep was disrupted, where meal timing wasn't quite the same, where your walking patterns were different, and stress, where, it was simply different. Was it after the stress increased? Yeah, maybe something is happening. Not necessarily a dramatic stress, but just, I know, some pressure, maybe some new decisions, more responsibility, more mental load. Maybe you took on some additional family responsibilities. Mom moved in. Dad got sick. They could no longer live in their home. So now you have taken over that responsibility. So there's more a load, more mental load, more decisions that have to be made. Was it after your sleep changed? Going to bed later for some reason? Waking up earlier? Waking up more often? Maybe there's some other health issues going on, right, that have nothing to do with your weight management. Maybe the blood sugars are higher. And so you're waking up now more often to go to the bathroom. Maybe you're in some pain and your sleep is disrupted. You're feeling less rested, even when you're getting the same number of hours of sleep. And so what we're doing is we're trying to pinpoint, we're being detectives now. Where did that happen? Now here's why that matters. Because weight regulation responds to context. We often think that it only responds to food and it responds only to exercise. And so I can't tell you the number of people that I have that come to me that we're talking, and when we talk about weight, you know what I hear? Well, I'm eating less, I'm exercising more. And so in their minds, if they continue to go down the path of less food and more exercise, then that has to result in a change in the weight. But remember, weight is a combination of things. Food and exercise activity being a few of those. Actually, a couple of those. But the timing helps you locate what the body noticed first. Remember, the change in the scale is a late finding. So if the shift happened after travel, that points to one set of influences. If it happened after sleep, that points to something else. If it happened after a scheduling shift, that points even to another. And sometimes just recognizing the timing immediately lures confusion, because now you have a starting point, a place to say, because that we can fix. Once we understand, we have a path. But if everything feels like it's up in the air, it's like a gunshot, right? A shotgun approach, essentially a gunshot, but shotgun approach. We never know what's going on, what's hitting. But if we can pinpoint, if we can be great detectives, understanding what's going on in our body and be able to say, okay, that's when that started. So as you take a moment and think, right, locate the timing for yourself. Do that right now. Let's pause and say, okay, when did that happen? When did I see that? And it may not be your current season, current situation, but I want you to also think back to when this happened before. Because many of us really have thrown our hands up because we say, we keep trying, and it keeps getting better, and then the weight comes back. So we're not even in that anymore. So when did that happen? And if you were to label that moment with one phrase, whatever that moment was, what would it be? Would you say after a schedule change? After the holidays? Many people won't come to see me after the holidays. Was it after a trip? Was it after a stressful month? After my sleep got off for some reason? And that phrase, whatever you just labeled, that becomes the marker. And in this lab, we're not chasing the scale. What we're doing is we're locating the moment that the body started responding differently. So we're putting this under the magnifying glass, being able to interpret what's going on and be able to pinpoint, because after all, that is the key for us. To answer that question, why does it work and then it stops working or it gets worse? For some people, it's timing. Now that you have that timing in mind, let's go to the next question, because timing tells us when it began. And that next guided question that we're moving to helps us to understand what pressure was present when it began. So we've got the timing, but what was going on that caused it? So now that you've identified that when the weight started to change, the next question is, what pressure was present at the time? And when I say pressure, I don't mean something huge and dramatic. I don't mean a crisis. I don't mean like everything felt overwhelming or out of control or pressure that you, like, you know, the house is falling down and burning down and everybody's running around crazy. No, it could be subtle, quiet, ongoing. It can show up as mental load, as uncertainty, some doubt, some insecurity, something that's changed that we're not sure of in our environment. It can show up as sustained effort. Like we all of a sudden gotten into a season, whether at work, with the family, in our community, right, at home, where we're doing something, right? We're renovating. Like I mentioned, we're taking care of mom. There's something going on at school and you volunteered. You're on a committee. And there is a sustained effort going on without enough recovery time. So let's slow this down a little bit and let's name a few common forms of pressure. Right? Decision load, which we've mentioned. More choices. More planning. Like you guys are planning to do something in the summer. You're planning to do something next spring. You're planning to do something during spring break or on your anniversary. Whatever it is, there's this planning going on, and there is more decision. There are more choices. There are more, right? There's a little anxiety. Even when we do things that are fun, y'all, even when we travel, right, which is supposed to be fun, vacation, there is anxiety around the travel itself, getting to the airport, getting to the ship, getting everybody together, getting all the documents, getting the right clothes. There is a lot of stuff that goes on. There are more things to keep track of, maybe. And even good changes, new routines, new goals, new responsibilities. You got a job promotion. You started a business. You wrote the book. You're on tour. You got the album. You started the YouTube channel. You started the podcast. Those are all good things, but they also increase our load. And if we're not careful, if we've not put things in place for recovery, that's a place. That's pressure. Another uncertainty. Not knowing how something will turn out. Not knowing how that class you're taking is going to turn out, that certification that you're looking for. Or maybe even anticipating a change. Like we're excited that we're going to be moving to X, but And everything looks fine. We've got the house, we've got the money, we've got the job, we've got everything is perfect. Everything is, but it's an anticipation of a change. So even the positive uncertainty, like a new opportunity, still signals the body to stay alert. Another is a compression in time. So maybe there was a project that was due and the time has been shortened. So a tighter schedule, shorter margins, less buffer between tasks. Or just simply mental fatigue, that you've been going and going and going and going. So not physical exhaustion, but the mind. And that kind of comes from constant thinking, constant planning, constant solving, constant worrying without a time for release, without a pop-off valve, if you will. This is that kind where nothing is technically wrong, but everything requires attention. And this all has to do with this idea of sustained effort without recovery. You stayed consistent. You kept showing up. You didn't quit. But recovery didn't increase alongside the effort. You kept going like the Energizer Bunny. But there wasn't a period where you say, okay, I need 5 minutes. I need a day. I need whatever. And we do that, right? Some of us pride ourselves on, man, I have never taken time off on the job. Like I've got days that I can carry over into next year. That's great. But where's the recovery? So here's the key idea. The body responds to pressure by preparing for demand. This is a key one. And one of the ways it prepares is by regulating our energy storage and release. Think about it. If you were planning to, if you knew something was coming, like a lot of times when there are storms coming, when there's different weather happening, what happens? You go to the grocery store and everything's gone. Like all the bread, all the milk, all the eggs, gone. Paper towels, gone. Because what people are doing is they're storing up, and the body does the same thing. That means the weight regulation can shift even when the habits stay exactly the same. Because the internal environment has changed. Not that you've stopped doing the things you were doing that helped make the weight go away, but something inside has changed and your body is responding to that by saying, seems like I need to hold on to some stuff because this is danger. So take a moment and ask yourself, what pressure is present or was present before the weight started changing again? Not what happened after, but before, around that time. Was it a stretched or sustained effort? A season that required more from you? A period where you rested quietly, but narrowed my rest time? Think about it. Once again, we're examining how do we recognize these patterns, because this is the key. And if you had to describe this, right, the pressure in one phrase, what would it be? Just like we did for timing. Would it be more responsibility? That was the pressure that initiated this? Was it tighter schedule? Well, that's what happened around the time when my weight started going up. Was it mentally being drained? Always feeling like you're the Energizer Bunny going on and on and on, or pushing through? That phrase matters. Because we're not asking right now in the lab, did I try hard enough? We already knew you did because you lost weight. We're asking, what was the body responding to? What was it saying? And how what mode did it go into as it saw what was going on in your environment? So now that we've identified the pressure, the next question becomes critical, because pressure often shows up without change. And that leads us to the next guided question. Now that we've identified that, here's the question. What changed without being replaced? This question is not about mistakes. It's about transitions. Because most of health changes involve removal. I want you to think about it. We're always removing things. And removal always creates a space. Meals change because we remove things. Schedules change and shift. Habits tighten. Routines simplify. And when something is removed, the body immediately asks, what takes its place? So think about it. Some common examples. Not to diagnose, but to recognize the pattern once again. Sometimes meals were removed. We went from eating 3 squares, so we're going to do 2 meals a day. We're going to do 1 meal a day. We're going to start fasting. So eating becomes less frequent, but the timing becomes unpredictable. So today we're going to stop breakfast. Tomorrow we're going to eat lunch. The next day we're going to go back to having breakfast, right? So there's no pattern there. Sometimes calories are dropped, but recovery didn't increase. Sleep stayed the same. Rest stayed the same. Mental load stayed the same. Exercise increased. But we didn't adjust anything else. We didn't give enough time for rest. The movement went up, but recovery window narrowed because what? We got up, we're going to get up in the morning, we're going to go exercise, but we did not take enough time at night to go to bed on time or get to bed earlier so that we can get up earlier. Nothing stable took the place. The structure was changed. Sometimes there's fewer rules, right? More flexibility. And that is great, except we increased unpredictability. And here's the key. The body doesn't respond to effort alone. It responds to consistency, to reliability. When something changes and nothing replaces it, the system becomes more cautious. Not alarmed, not broken, but cautious. And it says, wait a minute, is this sustainable? Can we maintain this? Can we continue in this space? Can we continue like this? So think about that for a moment. What shifted during the period when your weight started going up? What did you remove? Or what did you intensify, right? Same idea as removing, without something intentionally taking its place. So got up, so more walking, but less sleep. More exercise, but less time to recover. Less food at the same time that we're increasing intensity. So was it fewer meals without a rhythm? Right? Erratic fasting. More flexibility, but then the structure of your life became unpredictable. More goals, better, great, love it, without a buffer, without a time to pause. So think about that right now. Think about your current weight or a weight at a time when you lost weight and it came back. And if you had to name it, what would it be? And if you had to complete this sentence, how would you complete it? Something was removed and nothing was stabilized. What came next? You took something away, right? What did you remove? That awareness matters because, as I said, we are detectives in this lab. We're not trying to add more, because we've already proven that it can work. We're learning how to sustain it. And what was it that caused it to head back in the other direction? And right now we're talking about what did we take away but then replace? And so that leads us to the next guided question. The one that shapes how the body responds moving forward. So we talked about timing, we talked about pressure, we talked about removing, right? And this question often shapes what happens next. Because sometimes more food, more sleep, more exercise, all of that happens. Great. But this one can affect your body and affect you even more than those. And here it is. You ready? What story are you telling yourself about the weight? When the weight started going back up, when it's coming back, what story did you tell yourself? Not the story that you would say out loud, but the story that's inside, the one that you don't voice, the quiet one, the one that automatically comes when you saw the weight start going up. Because the interpretation matters. The body responds to all those things we've talked about, food and exercise and sleep and all of that. Yeah, body responds to those, but not only those, but it responds also to how we understand what's happening and the story we tell ourselves about what's happening. So let's slow that down a little bit. When the number shifted or the trend changed or maintaining started to be harder, started to feel harder, what meaning did you attach to that moment? And should process that. So for many people, the story may sound like, this stopped working. Or I must be doing something wrong. Or I can't keep this up. Those interpretations don't come from weakness, but they come from uncertainty. However, they affect our thought process, and our thought process affects our physiology. It changes how we recover. It changes how we rest. It changes how we respond to stress. Because after all, if it just changed, it stopped working, that takes it out of my hands. I'm not in control. So if I've lost control, there's no reason for me to do anything else. There's no reason for me to engage. There's no reason for me to attempt. There's no reason for me to understand because it's out of my hands anyway. If I did something wrong, then bad me. And if bad me, then I've got to soothe myself. And how do I soothe myself? I soothe myself by sometimes going further down that road. Less sleep, I'm more irritable, I eat more, right? So the number doesn't just tell what the body is doing, it also influences what the body prepares for next. And so here's the reorientation that I want us to sit with. The number itself is not the problem. And I started out by saying something like this. The number, that scale, is not the problem. It's a signal. And signals aren't judgment. They are information. Information about timing, information about pressure, information about change, information about capacity. So instead of asking, what did I do wrong? We want to notice what the body might be communicating, not as a criticism, but as data. If the shift in weight were simply information, if the shift in weight were simply information, and this is our question, what would it be pointing your attention to? What would it be saying to you? Because when our interpretation softens, we're able to process better, clarity increases, clarity changes how the body settles, and once we slow down interpretation, something important happens. The story quiets, the urgency eases, the space opens up. Not to try harder, but to see more clearly. Now we have a better idea. We can begin pinpointing, but as long as the interpretation is incorrect, as long as we continue to have the emotion that seems to surround what that number says, clarity is we're cloudy. So when we stop reacting to the number and start listening to it, the question naturally changes. It moves from what did I do wrong to what is this asking me to adjust? That shift is where regulation begins to stabilize. So let's go to that final question. If the change were useful information, what would it be pointing you to right now? I want you to consider that quietly. Does it point to a rhythm problem? How consistently your days are structured? Does it point to a recovery issue? How well your body is getting rest, the rest that it needs to process the changes that we're making. Good changes, love it. But is it a recovery issue? Does it point to predictability in meals, in movement, in sleep, in scheduling? Remember, the body works on rhythm. And when the rhythm is not aligned, when the rhythm is not consistent, then the body doesn't know how to process, how to handle it. And so it goes into a protective mode. Does it point to stability issue? How much demand is being placed on the system that's still adapting? Interesting one, because sometimes we get excited and we jump in 100%, which is good. We want change, we want improvement, we want better health. But at the same time, we get up early, we go to the gym 5 days a week when we weren't going at all. We're cutting back on food. We're exercising. We're fasting. So we've made all of these changes, and we're asking our system to adapt in the middle of all of that. The demand has gone up. But in all that I just said, you didn't hear me say anything about the capacity to rest and to recover. So how much demand are we placing on the system that's still adapting? It's in the middle of getting better in all that we're doing, but we're taxing it without giving the opportunity to recover. And this question isn't for answering right now. It's creating orientation. That's what the lab is all about. Stability doesn't come from intensity. It comes from the structure that the body can rely on. When design supports regulation, the system settles. When the system settles, progress becomes easier to maintain. Did you hear that? Progress becomes easier to maintain when the system settles. Some people notice they've been asking their body for consistency while their days have stayed unpredictable. Some realize recovery has been treated as optional, not structural. Some people recognize that life changed and their system hasn't fully adapted yet. And some simply see that nothing is broken. Something is still adjusting. This isn't about fixing anything. It's about orientation. Because once you understand what your body is responding to, you stop chasing outcomes and you start designing conditions. And when conditions support regulation, the system settles. When the system settles, progress becomes easier. Much, much, much easier. This is a natural place right here to pause. Take a moment and let the questions stay with you. Insight develops as signals are understood. And those signals have time to settle. Clarity grows through observation, not through urgency. So we'll step out of the lab here and let you continue processing. Because what we're doing is we are working on identifying those patterns. We've already proven that weight loss is possible. You've done it. The question is, why did it not last? It's not a matter of urgency or more effort, but understanding those patterns allows us to pinpoint where exactly the system derailed. What did the body do? How did the body respond to what we were doing? And if we can understand that, if we have clarity on that, then we've got a place to begin working. Awesome. We'll continue talking more. All right, y'all, man, this is an amazing process. Often we talk about the physiology, and physiology is great. I love physiology. As a matter of fact, as an endocrinologist, that's all that we do is physiology. How do hormones affect this, and how does that affect this thing, right? So physiology, that's the the lifeline of what I do on a regular basis. But understanding how to make the things that happen, the things that we do last, is the place we don't spend a lot of time. How many times have you been to a doctor or your healthcare provider, or you've been part of a program, or you have gone to the gym and you've gotten a trainer, and right? And so what we're doing is, we get there. Okay, thank you for the physiology. Thank you for this. Thank you for that. And we get some benefit. And a year down the road, a year and a half down the road, 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, we're like, man, I did that thing that one time and it worked, but it didn't last. No more. We're not interested in that anymore. And so that's what this space is all about. How do we make those things last for the future? Because after all, that is the goal. We're not interested in something for today and for tomorrow. We're interested in something that's going to be there for a long, 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 long time. Now, I know that a lot of you are out there, and that's the question. And so one of the things that I am excited about is that we have done an amazing job over the course of, the last year, 2 years, 3 years, in teaching physiology. And we've had amazing benefits. We have community members that have lost upwards of 100 pounds, people whose A1Cs have gone from 14 down to 5s, people who have gotten off medication. As a matter of fact, we have some community members that are off of all of their diabetes-related medications. We have some people who are on medications, but intermittently, where they were taking medications every day. Now they take it occasionally, holidays and birthdays and Christmas and so forth. We have people whose cholesterols have gone down. Personally, my A1C has never been as good as it is right now. My weight, and you guys saw that. So the physiology, great, but how do we maintain it? And that is a big push as we move into the future. The things that we talk about, the things that are here, are amazing, and we love that you come. We love that you're engaged. We love that you're seeing benefits. If you are interested in continuing the process, the Woode Life Design Brief is a weekly nugget that I send out. You can go to DwainWoodeMD.com. As a matter of fact, do I have that up here? You go to DwainWoodeMD.com and you can sign up for that. It is a weekly email that you get. Comes with a very short nugget that you get to incorporate in that week. Okay, it's not a go do this and go write this and go find that. It's this is a practical thing that I can do right now as I walk through the path of continuing to be healthy and keep this going. DwainWoodeMD.com. We will continue to process and continue to work as we move through the rest of the season. So remember, our foundations episode comes out the week before, and then on Dwain Woode MD Live on the show, we walk through the lab. How do we apply this? How do we recognize those patterns? How do we see ourselves? Because we want to see ourselves in that pattern so that we now have a place that we can pinpoint. That's the goal. For you to be able to, as we walk through this lab, identify, become the detective of yourself, understanding how your body is working. So over the course of our season, we'll have the Foundations episode that comes out the week before. On Monday, on Dwain Woode MD Live, we'll have our show. We'll have the lab in the show, which is just what we just did. And then on Tuesdays, we'll have our start of the fasting week. As we move through the week. Now, last week we did Tuesday and Wednesday. The rest of the week, as you know, we were doing a live show on Mondays, on Wednesdays, on Thursdays, on Fridays. The live show, Dwain Woode MD Live, will be on Monday, And the teaching, the ones that called teaching, but the foundations episode comes out the week before. So make sure you grab that, make sure you listen to it, and then come on, and you can pop some questions in the chat because we'd love to get that and love to hear from you. Okay, so let's go back over, and I do see some of our community members. Let's see, Cornelia. Cornelia says hi everyone. Gian says hi sis. Hello Cornelia. Jennifer says I added a home infrared sauna. I'm hoping the health claims are true. With the sweat, with the sweaty heat, I can't keep my CGM on. Yeah, that's one of the big things with the heat. With the sweating, because sometimes the stickiness gets taken off with the heat. They have some covers that you can put on them, Jennifer, and you can get those on Amazon somewhere. A lot of our patients use them. Interestingly, I've not had to use those before. But that is a common complaint. Hey, Julian, Cornelia from Pam. Cornelia says, hi, Pam, Jennifer. Your infrared sauna sounds amazing right now. I hope it lives up to the claims. That's right. Teresa, hey doctor and everyone. What's up, Teresa? Thanks for coming through. Gian says hi, Teresa. Jennifer saying hello to Teresa. Hey, Gian and Jennifer and Cornelia and Pam from Teresa. Hi, Teresa. Hello all from Steve. So Cornelia says hi, Steve, and hello to Steve from Pam. So glad. I'm always excited about the community that we're in. And so as you guys know, our platform is based on the pillars: educate, empower, and encourage. And I've not you guys have seen that E3. You may remember this is our mug that was, so can you see that? Okay, let me put it over my eyes. There you go. This is our mug that we use, and we used to have that poster back up there. It's been sitting on my desk. But I thought I'd just pull it up because we say those words, right? We educate, we empower, and we encourage. We educate with the shows. We educate with the videos, right? So the foundations episode, we encourage with the tools, right? And so the lab that we're doing is a tool. This is how we recognize, how we interpret, how do we see where things have changed. And we encourage, so we educate, we empower, with the tools, and we encourage with the community that you are part of. The community is an amazing process. We will have our after the show meetup here in just a little while. And then if you are on YouTube, you'll have that after the show discussion that we'll have that will come out as well. But make sure that you are connecting. You don't have to connect here, but make sure you're connecting somewhere. We would love for you to be a part of our connection. We love the fact that you come through. We love the fact that you're here. The labs that we're doing are designed to allow you to understand how to maintain the physiology that we've done, the physiology that we do in the foundations video, and it's very short, right? You saw this last one was six minutes. The one last week was about 12 to 13 minutes. Right, so I want to give bite-sized pieces of information that is digestible, that you can process, and then develop your questions. And so you come on and you can ask those questions here in this space as we're going through that lab. We'll be back, as I said, tomorrow as we start our fasting. So make sure that you join us for that for this week. The other thing is, and we'll talk about this as well, but if you have been fasting, if you're interested in fasting, if you are fasting and you just want to get some additional insight, if you go to dwainwoodemd.com/fasting, dwainwoodemd.com/fasting, you can download a primer. This is a PDF that I've created with the primer on how to start fasting safely. And when you do that, you'll get over the course of the next couple of weeks, I think over the next 21 days or so, you'll get about 5 or 6 emails that I will send out to you that gives you different pointers and different thoughts and ideas about fasting. Now, the PDF in itself is already contained, right? So all the information is there, but these emails are just additional pieces of information that you can, to help you move through that process. Okay, the Woode Life Design Briefs, that is a consistent over the course of the year. You sign up for that, you get a weekly nugget size piece of information that you can incorporate into your life as you are working to improve your health. And then if you're specifically interested in fasting, as we do, because we're using that as one of the tools, you want a primer, you want to make sure you're doing it successfully, you've been thinking about fasting and not quite sure, a great thing for you to download, DwainWoodeMD.com/fasting. Okay? Y'all, I am always very excited and grateful to be here in the space with you. Thank you for coming through. Thank you for being in the space. Thank you for our community members who are out there and the amazing benefits that you are getting in your life. Oh, one thing that I want to do, let's see, where is that? Do I have that here? Hold on. I think I have it. I guess I'll have to put it up the next time. I thought I did. But if you are interested in being part of our channel improvement and what we do here on the channel, there's a QR code that I had, and for some reason I can't find it right now, where you can go, and we would love to get your input on the channel, on the shows, on the things that we're doing here, so that we can get some improvement. So if you're interested in that, just drop me a note, and I think I had that in, just a second, let me see if I can pull it up really quickly. I had that, it's in one of the videos, the video from last week, actually, it's there. But for some reason, it eludes me at this moment, okay? But yeah, we would love to get your input, love to have you involved in giving us recommendations and suggestions. It's a little short, a short evaluation that you would give us. Thank you for that. And thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging out. Hey, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Woode with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, go to the next level. We're creating the life we've always wanted, and we are living that limitless life. Remember, you don't need superhuman strength. What you need is a strategy you can trust. You need a plan you can follow, and you need the determination and the support to keep showing up every single time. I want you to have the success in your health just like you're having elsewhere, so you can show up for your family, for your friends, and those things that are so important in our lives. Everybody, thank you for coming through. Have a great evening. We'll see you next time.